The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, it's Monday night and we are not joined by the illustrious driver. He's had the small matter of interviewing Richard Gordon earlier today, so he has taken the evening off and left his little brother in charge. I'm Jono Boyce. I am joined tonight by Dale, who is stepping in for Russell this evening. Devil, how are you doing, mate?
Good, mate. I'm on annual leave, so I had a fairly busy weekend and just kind of relaxing this week, mate, and enjoying some podcasting.
Oh, nice. And it's been a while. You've been off, is it not 3 weeks or something you've got off at the minute?
Yeah, I've been off for a week already, mate. I've still got about another 15 days off, aye.
Oh, you lucky bastard. You lucky bastard. I mean, I've been off for a long weekend and I'm dreading going back on Wednesday. I've only been off for a couple of days and it's not even much for a holiday. My house is a tip at the minute. I'm waiting on work getting done on it and I feel like I'm working out of like just I don't even know, like a bunker today. But never mind, I'll digress. It's obviously going to be a big show. Please do hit the like buttons, hit the subscribe buttons to all of you that are watching. We are now well and truly on the countdown towards the opening day of the season. Celtic play Aberdeen this coming Sunday, which we're all looking forward to. The Bhoycie Bus then rolls into the Bullfrog in Motherwell on Sunday night. So it's a huge weekend coming up this weekend, guys. Dale, how excited are you for all the upcoming events we've got this week?
I can't wait, mate. I'm buzzing to see Richard Gordon stuff tomorrow as well. By all accounts, it went really well. Speaking to Russell, let's have to the interview went really well today. Very, very big coup for the bus. So I'm really looking forward to sitting down and watching that tomorrow. Sunday, Flag Day, just always excited for it. Full house at Paradise. By all accounts, I think there's going to be a full stadium tifo as well. Going with the wee man and then back to the notorious Bullfrog Bar in Motherwell for a live show, the first one the Bhoycie Bus will be bringing. Hopefully have many to come, mate. So, good week and a good weekend coming up. I can't wait, mate.
Yes, mate, definitely. It'll be the first of many of these live shows I have a strong inclination towards anyway. But we are going to digress and talk a wee bit about the football because you're right, it is a big weekend coming up. It is Flag Day. There is tifos potentially going to be unveiled. And you know, this Celtic team, it's really came on leaps and bounds as we keep saying on the bus, from the last 12 months, I can't believe how much the team has grown. And we're going to just take a wee moment and kind of go back towards last season's opening day of the season and see just how far the team has actually progressed since then, because it's quite unbelievable when you think where we were this time 12 months ago. We went to Tynecastle and lost 2-1. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually read you out the team that actually played that day. And you've got it there as well.
I've been well prepared myself, but I'll let you go with it, mate. On you go.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll make sure that the passengers all know exactly who was playing that day. So you had Bain, Ralston, Beaton, Starfelt, Taylor, Sorrow, McGregor, Abada, Turnbull, Forrest, and French Eddie was up top that day. Yep. I mean, we've came on leaps and bounds since then, haven't we, mate?
Yeah, mate. Even if you look at the bench with Barkas, Ajeti, Montgomery, and Welsh, to name a few. Tommy Rogic was there as well, Ryan Christie. So it just shows a massive, massive turnaround in where we are now. And the potential starting 11 in Sunday is exciting. I'm hoping to see the new centre-back playing. Obviously, at the weekend was a very small glimpse, but I think we've covered marking that we're talking about it. He looked very comfortable in there next to Carter Vickers. So it's absolute night and day to Tynecastle last year, and probably even just the feeling actually going into the season's totally different as well, just in regards to the squad and fans still not being 100% sure what Ange was going to bring to the table with just a couple of pre-season games under the belt as well, the Michelin result and stuff before Tynecastle. So
yeah,
I think the full mindset of the Celtic fans is totally different from where we were 12 months ago, mate.
Yeah, I'd have to agree 100%. It's night and day from where we were 12 months ago. When you look back to those bloody qualifiers against Midtjylland, and it just seemed like that regular occurrence of near Beaton centre half. And we just read out the team. There was near Beaton was, I think, playing centre half there at Tynecastle as well this time last year. And it's night and day, really, when you look at where this team was at. I mean, even looking through that squad, there's just not many of those players that would really get a sniff out of even the ones that, a few of them have left. And then even looking at the ones that are regulars, apart from, you've got McGregor, Abada, Turnbull, and Starfelt. Outside of that, Ralston as well. You've got probably half a team there that's been totally revamped and changed. And, even going through the ones that were actually still playing this time last year, they've all developed onto so much of a higher level over the course of the past 12 months. It's been really, refreshing to see. I mean, out of those players that, are still in the first team, Del, which one do you feel has kind of improved the most over the past 12 months? So as I say, you've probably got there Ralston, Starfelt, McGregor, Abada and Turnbull have all featured fairly regularly over the past 12 months. Which one for you has stood out the most?
You would probably have to say the two fullbacks, Jono. I think Ralston probably more so because he was on loan at St Johnstone. He wasn't getting any game time. We thought he was going to be leaving, and Ange just transformed him. We touched on it the other week. He had the captain's armband on. I don't think he's ever let us down in any game, and that's with Jozo coming in and probably playing a lot more games. And if Ralston's been on the bench 3, 4, 5 times games in a row, he just comes straight back in and just gives you a performance. I think it's the heart as well with Ralston. He's a Celtic boy, isn't he? He knows what it's all about. He's come through the academy, but hats off to Greg Taylor as well, mate, because I slaughtered them in my podcast all the time, constantly. I think Starfelt came in for a lot of stick too, but I've always said it, mate. You watch football with your eyes, so you can only say what you see at the time. We're no slaughtering these guys because we want to, but if we never, then we would have nothing to talk about. So, Taylor and Ralston for me have definitely improved massively over the last 12 months.
It's an interesting point. I think Ralston will obviously be the fans' favourite in terms of the ones that have came on leaps and bounds, as you say, came through the youth ranks. And in fairness, in some ways, it kind of felt like he was on his way out the door. And, there's been quite a comeback from Tony Ralston. I actually think he'll probably start at right back on Sunday as well, because I think he's been looking fairly impressive again in the pre-season. So I definitely think that's something that has been a huge plus over the past 12 months. Also, we touched upon Starfelt there as well, and I remember he had an absolute shocker, I think, at Tynecastle in that game. I think he was still obviously getting himself up to speed, and there was a lot of undue criticism that came Starfelt's way that I think we've almost forgotten about, to be fair, in that sort of first half of the season, where people were having a nice out a little bit on Starfelt, maybe not so much from our own fans, but certainly the wider mainstream media was certainly a bit more keen to stick the boot into him when he did make a mistake. But I don't think you've really seen as much of that from Starfelt, now going forward. And he's probably walk in as your number 2 choice centre-half now behind Carter Vickers, really, to partner him. Obviously, he's injured at the weekend, so it'll be an interesting one there as well. You're obviously touching upon the new centre-half. Is that who you're expecting to go in on Sunday, or are you thinking it could be Welsh?
I would like him to go straight in. I think it will. I think it maybe will be Welsh, and that's me just going by the pre-season minutes he's got under his belt. I don't know how much Marit's trained and had any pre-season in regards to the French side that came for. I don't really know how up to speed he is. Ange and the backroom staff will obviously know a lot more than us, but I probably expect Stephen Welsh to start. I do think Juranovic will start right back. I will disagree with you on that one.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's a good point that Charles has actually brought up. Charles Smith bringing up the competition for places there. And I think even just touching upon that centre-half slots, now the fact we've got that extra option in there does give us, a little bit more strength and depth, a bit more competition for places there, which I think we were needing, particularly when it looks as if Julian's is going to be heading off. I see there's more reports of him being linked to the move away today, and I think most people are now coming to accept that his time at Celtic is over from all sides on that particular one. You're looking at the actual competition, and again, it goes back to last season. I mean, if you were looking even at, centre-half positions and right-backs, we were having to play, was it Dane Murray was playing centre-back, I believe, in qualifiers last season, which is crazy to really think. And, even looking in your full-back positions, I mean, I didn't even know who the sort of options have been at right-back at the start of the last season. I think it was just Ralston, wasn't it? Because Juranovic wasn't signed until later on. So they'd have had really no... Or was it Ayer had to sometimes go out to right-back, make a makeshift right-back to begin with? But the strength and depth, Dale, it's came on quite unbelievably, hasn't it?
The depth in the squad for me is really, really good in all positions. I think if you look through the full squad, from back to front, the only place that would maybe still worry me is a centre forward, and that's just on the basis of Giacomakis and Kyogo's injury last year. That's not me saying anything in regards to their quality, but just with their injuries last year, I'm still that wee bit worried that something happens to them, then we might toil. But I'm reasonably happy. I can really understand the fans' frustration. I think Russell mentioned that in a podcast the other day that we're still spending the same amount of money in players as we did when Mark O'Neill comes in. That's where I think the fans' frustration comes from. Obviously, getting into a Champions League year, people are disappointed we've not went out and splashed the cash. But I'm a glass half full kind of guy, so I'm reasonably happy. I think there's so many different factors in spending money, and I think wages and players coming to Scotland are two of the biggest things. So they could well be going out and looking at £9 and £10 million players, but are they looking for 15, 16, 70 grand wages or whatever it may be that they can get in England and Spain and Germany and elsewhere? So I think we need to be a wee bit more realistic, but 100% understands people's frustrations, but there's not been a ball kicked in anger yet, so let's see how we go in the first few weeks of the season before we start slaughtering people,
Yeah, well, this is it, and it definitely seems to be causing a bit of a divide, even just on the bus, before we go into the wider fan groups.
And I love it, and I love the debate, mate, and I love disagreeing with people, and the people on the bus, Danielle and Mark and myself and Bhoycie and whoever else it may be, don't agree on everything, but it would be so boring. And as I've always said, I respect all their opinions because they've got a bit of substance behind it, and they don't just say stuff for the sake of it and jump on and listen to what everybody else is saying. What they say isn't bullshit. It's just what they believe, and that's what I say as well. So a difference in opinion isn't a bad thing, as long as the substance behind what they're saying is decent enough, and our contributors tend not to talk too much rubbish. So I love a lively debate. It's brilliant, mate.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And it certainly has been a lively debate when we talk about the old transfer window. I've been banging the drum for a number of weeks now that the business will all be done by the 31st of July, bar something becoming available that we didn't actually have, or some ridiculous offer coming in for one of our players, and then we have to go back into the market to replace them. I'm still feeling fairly confident on that prediction. I think there'll be one or two more bodies that may well arrive in the next week. But certainly, hopefully before Sunday, I think Postecoglou is still hinting that there is more to come in. I wouldn't be overly surprised if there's maybe a loan signing that follows in August, just to try and make up the numbers. But I mean, in terms of the overall squad, and obviously there's lots of different arguments in terms of where the board are at and whether or not they've done enough to back the manager and everyone else. With the money that's been spent, granted, we've got Carter Vickers in, we've got Jota in, we've got, Burnaby, the left back, which we badly needed to push Greg Taylor in that position. You've got Benjamin Siegrist, who we badly needed to push Joe Hart. And so overall, for me, I'm fairly content with the transfer business we've done so far. I'm still looking, as I've said before, for a midfield enforcer to kind of go in there. I still feel we could do with a third choice out-and-out striker, although Maeda has started the season looking very ominous up front. It took his goal very well, I thought, on Saturday. I mean, from your point of view, Dale, where would you be looking at strengthening, or are you quite content with where the boards are at now?
No, I'm never content with the board. I think I probably agree with you, mate. The centre forward position and possibly midfield. I think Moy probably, once he's fit, will be a better addition than people think, and I think he'll probably push James McCarthy down that pecking order a wee bit more. So if I've got Moy and a Turnbull to look to on the bench in that central midfield, Champions League quality probably not, but again, being realistic, who do we go and get to come in and challenge Callum McGregor and Matt O'Reilly? And that's the scouts that need to be looking at that. I've not really heard too much in regards to another midfielder coming in. I know there was a lot of rumours before Moy did come in regards to Argentinian players and whoever else it may have been. But I would agree with the two positions. The centre midfield and probably another number 9, mate, not a forward, an out-and-out goal scorer.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, just purely because of the amount of time Kyogo and Giakoumakis have spent injured, over the past 12 months. I think it would be prudent for us to be looking at that and expecting, if we're going to be playing a lot of games. The World Cup falls right in the middle of this season as well. So we are going to have games crammed in either side of Christmas to contend with, as well as obviously the European games, which will take its toll because there's a lot more running to do when you're playing a club like Manchester City or Liverpool. And there won't be a lot of time when you're on the ball in those games. So I do think there is more potential there for injuries than there was even last season. So I definitely think another striker would be of benefit to us. But certainly in terms of ingoings, I think we're nearly there. As I say, I'm fairly content with how well we've done in the window. I still think there's room for improvement, as I've said. But moving on to other topics in terms of outgoings at the club just now, there's obviously rumours that are circulating that Mikey Johnson may well be off the Standard Liège on a loan deal, I believe. I would imagine most fans will probably be quite happy to see him go. I don't think he's really done enough for me over his time to convince me that he's going to get a regular feature in the team. And I think now he must be, 21, 22 years old, if not older. He's another one of these ones that seems to have been around forever, Mikey Johnson. But I mean, from my point of view, Dale, I look at that and think it's probably good business from the club to get him off the wage bill, and hopefully it all works out from its Standard Liège. Is there anything that you're kind of thinking of that makes you think he still has a future at Celtic?
No, I don't think he's any future. I really, really wish the boy all the best. I think Celtic's possibly too big for him, Jono. I genuinely do, because I think he broke into the team 2016, 17. I think he maybe played a couple of games under Rodgers. And the boys had quite a lot of bad injuries, being so young. But I think coming through, there was the comparisons with McGeady's and Sean Maloney's and stuff like that. And he's came back in recently fit, and Ange hasn't really used him. When he has, he's not really been very effective, to be honest with you. It looks as if he's bulked up in pre-season, and he's still not really had much game time. So I think it's just too much on the laddie's shoulders. I think the loan move will do him the world of good. If he gets over and gets game time, who knows where his career will go, but I very much doubt he comes back to Celtic Park next year if the loan deal goes through and makes any sort of impact at the club. But if he does go, I genuinely do wish the boy all the best.
Yeah, no, I think we'd all echo those sentiments. It's one that's not really worked out for Mikey Johnson, but I'm sure he can find his level. There is a talented player there, and maybe it's just one of those ones if he takes a step to another club, he might find where his level is at and start improving as a player and getting better. But it does lead us nicely on with the Mikey Johnson talk today about, other players potentially that might need to be trimmed from the squad. I know Postecoglou must be looking at it and thinking there is a bit of a fat around the team that he could possibly look to get rid of, particularly now he's brought in Bhoy last week as well. I'm looking at that midfield area, and I think that's fairly packed, Dale, in terms of options, particularly in the centre of the park. The interesting one for me, and I think one that would ideally possibly like to get off the wage bill, would be James McCarthy. I'm struggling to see where he really features now going forward, to be honest. I feel like that move hasn't really worked out. I think that was financial suicide from the club, giving him a 4-year deal. You know what I mean? I don't understand the logic at all behind that one.
I think there's a lot more to read into McCarthy's deal than the fans know. I don't 100% know the ins and outs yet, but I know he was given a 4-year deal, obviously, in regards to looking into going into coaching after he'd stopped playing, because obviously his injuries, his history of injuries had been so bad. So I don't think he's in mega money. And obviously Ange, it wasn't an Ange Postecoglou signing either. So I don't think he's in mega money, and I think he was kind of brought in looking towards his future. But as you say, where does he fit in? Do you have him on a Champions League bench? Nah, not for me.
Not for me.
Not for me. Ajeti is another one that needs to go, but this guy's in great money. So if he's not getting it anywhere else, I don't see that there's many teams sniffing about him. So is he going to do a Bobo Balde and sit in his arse for a couple of years and make 25, 30 grand a week? He did come from West Ham, so I would imagine £5 million signing, he'll be on a few quid. So yeah. Ajeti's another guy, and then you're looking into the B squad, the likes of Moffat and Robertson and guys like that, Lowell and whoever else that could maybe go out and get some game time in elsewhere in Scotland or down south. So there's definitely loads of branches in the trees, mate, that could be given a wee trim, but we'll still get 35 days left until the 31st of August, so there's plenty of time, and I dare say there'll be a lot of work still going on in the background before the end of August comes, mate.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that as well. I think it's one of those ones that sometimes you might have to wait for potential suitors to find out exactly what their hand is in terms of European football before they look to make a move for any of your players. Obviously, Ajeti would be a good one to get rid of, because he just looks like he's absolutely hopeless. Let's be honest, a complete donkey up front. I think I could do better than him, and I've only got one good foot that I can hit with. All right, good, but
one name him.
Yeah, that's it. But you know what I mean? Ajeti just comes across to me as completely useless. I didn't know how he scored so many in Switzerland. They must be absolute donkeys for centre halves over there if he's raking them in when he was at Ball, I think it was. Yeah. But if we could get rid of him, that would be a big help, I would say. You're looking at the rest of the team, and as I say, there's a wee bit of fat that could be trimmed. Celtic McCarthy, as I say, should be one that's been looked to get rid of. I would like to think, and I know this has been discussed a bit as well, Dale, is that Celtic will hold firm when it comes to the sort of key players. I know there has been discussions and rumours about, for example, a David Turnbull potentially attracting interest from down south. For me, I wouldn't be keen on taking any sort of deals whatsoever for a David Turnbull at this time. Matt O'Reilly's another one who's been linked with Brendan Rodgers from Leicester City in the past week. Again, not somebody that we should be even contemplating selling, not just because he's the most handsome bastard at the club, but he's also a pretty good footballer to boot. So there's a few of them. Are you, Dale, expecting us to make any decisions in terms of selling a big name? Because bear in mind, normally what happens at Celtic in every summer, bar I think the one where we're going for 10 in a row, Celtic tend to sell a player for 10, 15 million pounds minimum, if not higher. Are you expecting something similar to happen this time around?
No, I think the difference is Ange Postecoglou, mate. The old saying is every player has a price, and that is true. Obviously, if there's mega money comes in, and we're making so much profit, then of course as a club financially, then the board are going to look at it. But I do feel that the club's in a totally different position with Ange Postecoglou, where he does have a big say. He'll want a really good crack at the Champions League this year. If things do go tits up, then possibly January or something, you might see somebody going somewhere. Matt O'Reilly seems like the kind of guy that he's came in, he's happy. There was genuinely talks that he could have went to the English Premiership, but he chose Celtic when he spoke to Ange. In regards to getting more, they reckoned they would get more game time, a big club going into the Champions League. So I think a lot of these players' heads won't be turned by a big move just yet, because they'll want to experience the Champions League nights at Parkhead, and Ange Postecoglou seems to have a really tight knit. I think next summer or possibly January, that's what kind of worries me. If these guys that played so well last year, especially Matt O'Reilly, I think he's going to have a real good season this year. Kyogo, even Giacomakis, Carter Vickers, Jota. We're a selling club if you're realistic as fans. So I don't think it'll happen this year, mate, but I think you might see a couple go in the summer of next year, depending on our Champions League adventure this year and how good the performances are.
Yeah, well, it's one of those ones that's like a double-edged sword, I guess. When you're in the Champions League, it does always going to attract more suitors to steal your players, particularly if the campaign goes well. Obviously, more and more scouts will be looking at the players from there. Kaiser makes an interesting point, and thanks for bringing this up, Kaiser, as well, and mentioning that he believes Celtic are listed by FIFA as the hottest club for emerging talent in Europe to make its way into the English Premiership. I mean, we've certainly done quite a lot of business into that league over the past 10 or so years, I would say, and I think we have got a bit of a reputation, which is why I think we've been able to get the sort of fees that we have been able to receive for the likes of Kieran Tierney being the most recent example. There's also Christopher Raya that went for good money last summer. And it's an interesting one when you look at it from that point of view, Dale, in the sense that, if Celtic have got this sort of big reputation now down south, and, we all know all the clubs down there have quite a lot of money they can afford to chuck at people. We've seen them chuck horrendous money at players in the past. Like Ollie Burke went for like £25 million or something ridiculous at one point. So there is money there. Do you think Celtic's reputation has now kind of increased, in terms of being able to produce and, develop talent even more so, and this is now almost hindering the club when it comes to actually players almost looking at us as a stepping stone?
Yeah, and I don't think that changes too much. I think even going back to the Martin O'Neill era when he was signing the big players, we were probably giving them Premiership money back then. That's the difference now. I'm unsure how much Jota and Carter Vickers have got. I dare say it'll be a few quid, but their heads will be turned, mate. I think Bhoycie said that before. If somebody comes in and offers you treble your wages, I'm away tomorrow.
I'll see you later. Bye.
I understand the fans' frustration, because we can only move forward and try and become relative, if you want, in Europe again, if we try and really hold on to these guys and pay them big wages. But these players as well want to play against the best players in the world, which is the English Premiership. Germany, Spain and Italy. So if they're at Celtic for a couple of years, they've experienced the Champions League, they've had 8 or 9 Glasgow derbies under their belt. I think not just being a stepping stone, it's kind of as far as they can go in a Celtic jersey, which is quite hard to say. I think Callum McGregor's and Scott Brown's and guys like that are long gone, are absolutely long gone. James Forrest to be another player. I think it's just a natural progression. It is a natural progression, and Celtic, you will see new players and full new squads every 3 to 4 years, and as long as there's still trophies coming in and they're spending money to improve as when these players go, which is probably what they've not done this year with Edwards and Ayers and Tierney's money. They could have probably spent more, but I'm just realistic about it. But as long as they're still successful on the park, then and the fans are happy, these guys are putting their all in when they're there, then most of the time I'll wish these guys the best when they do leave the club. Scottish football, wages, playing in better leagues, so many things to take into account, even though you're at one of the best clubs in the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's a good point to be making there with players. You know, obviously always looking potentially at the next move, and you've obviously got the English Premier League, which can offer just crazy money, not just in terms of transfer fees, but as you rightly say, in terms of the wages as well. It's it's impossible for Celtic. It's not very hard. It's impossible for a club like us that's stuck in Scottish football to really be able to offer those types of wages, and it's far removed now from the sort of Martin O'Neill era where the wage disparity never seemed quite as big as it does now, and Celtic have had to adjust.
There's no way Odsonne Edouard enjoys playing at Selhurst Park more than he enjoys playing at Parkhead. No fucking way.
No.
There's no chance. Money. It's just money. And Stuart Armstrong's another. I was a big fan of Armstrong as well. He's in a relegation battle at Southampton. He doesn't enjoy that more than a Derby Day or a European night at Parkhead. It's just that's where we are. And I don't think in our lifetime, the chat about Celtic going to the Premiership, I really, really hope it does happen. A lot of people disagree, obviously, we're a Scottish club, but unless that happens, this is going to be the same narrative year on year for Celtic. That's me just being realistic and not trying to put a dampener on all our good players are going to leave. It's just me being realistic about it.
Yeah, I mean, it is just the way it's going to go. And now Celtic have kind of had to, as I say, adapt to the landscape that they find themselves in. Unfortunately, the English clubs kind of call the shots now, whereas that wasn't as much the case, 20 years ago when O'Neill was at the club and he was able to pinch players from top-end Premiership clubs, whereas now it's pretty much impossible for Celtic to be looking at doing that unless they're heart set on the move. But you made a good point about Edouard as well, and there's been countless others over the last 10 years that have ended up moving down there and they can't enjoy it as much. I've seen something just yesterday about obviously Larsson's 25th anniversary of him signing. I think it was yesterday. And it turns out that, he's done an interview where he's pretty much turned around and said the best part of his career was spent at Celtic, even though he won the Champions League later on with Barcelona. If you want a guy like Henrik Larsson turning around and saying that, and granted, I get, obviously, he had a bit more success, particularly in Europe, than Celtic have had in recent years. But when you've got a guy as good as Henrik Larsson turning around and saying as many positive things about the club, you can't believe that players can possibly think playing at, Selhurst Park or St Mary's or wherever it may be can possibly be better. Even the Emirates where Tierney went to, it's like a library every weekend. It's not somewhere that I would want to play football myself anyway. But when the money comes in, it's obviously going to make a big impact on that. But we'll move on from the topic in terms of transfers. Hopefully, as I say, Celtic get the bodies in that they need. I'm still confident they will get one or two more before Sunday. I think it'll then be a look at trimming the squad from there. But moving into obviously the game coming up on Sunday and obviously the recent friendlies, there's also been a fair few empty seats in the grounds. Dale, I know you were at the Norwich game, weren't you? Oh yeah, both of them.
Yeah, I was at the Blackburn. I was at both of them, mate. Yeah,
Yeah, aye.
Empty seats everywhere, and there's been a lot of stuff on social media in regards to how they work their tickets, and I totally understand fans' frustration, and I understand fans that can't make the game as well, especially pre-season, and I think obviously people are still on holiday. We've got a massive Irish contingent that came over that spend thousands in travel every year. So I can understand these guys not coming, and that'll accumulate for quite a lot of seats as well. So I think there's other clubs that have got a better template than you can put your season ticket in. Some, if you give them so much advance, and it can be resold, and that actually gets recouped to the person that's bought the season ticket and not the club. So there's loads of different ways, but Celtic at the moment are still selling 52,000 season tickets a year. I don't think it's high up on their agenda, to be honest with you, mate. And there's people been on the waiting lists for 3, 4, 5 years that I know of as well. So I can understand the fans being annoyed about it, and it's especially league games as well, not just these pre-season games. If you notice the difference, like Flag Day and Sunday will be absolutely rammed. Ross County at home, 5, 6 thousand empty seats. So loads of different narratives and reasons. And listen, the way the world is just now as well, mate. People might just not able to be able to afford it. So, but Celtic also don't have the option of selling your season ticket like on for a season, but keeping it in your name and then getting it back if you're maybe struggling financially. There's
Yeah.
loads of different ways the club could get themselves up into 2022. There's obviously different models elsewhere that could maybe have a look at just to make sure people are desperate to go to Parkhead, mate, and they can't get there because there's, as you said earlier, sold out stadiums and there's 30,000 spare seats. So there's loads they can do, mate. There's loads they could do to try and appease a lot of these fans. I think there's 15 to 20,000 or something, 15,000 on the waiting list, maybe more. So
Yeah, I'm one of them. I'm one of them that's been on the waiting list for the last few years, and it's very difficult to get a hold of the tickets. They're like gold dust. But then, as you say, you end up going to Celtic Park some games, and there's plenty of empty seats to be found for season ticket holders for whatever reason haven't been able to get to the games, and the club haven't really done enough to try and make incentives there to get other people in and fill in those seats. Because at the end of the day, you know, the Celtic fans bring a unique atmosphere to the ground in the stadium, and you're as well having somebody else in there. You know, if the season ticket holder is unable to make it, then why on earth would you not be looking at having that seat filled by somebody else who's just as keen at wanting to watch their club? And, you know, there's some really good points being made in here. The BAC's coming in and saying you can't buy two seats together, even though the stadium's empty. I'm thinking he'll be talking about, you know, general sale even. It's very difficult to get them together unless you're right in that corner beside the away fans, and even they go pretty fast. So it's something I think the club need to be taking more of a stance on. Do you think there's really much of an appetite, though, Del, from your experiences with the club, obviously being a season ticket holder, to really address this issue?
I don't know, but I've never seen anything being brought up in recent years that springs to mind in regards to the AGM minutes. They publish the AGM minutes, so I can't remember anything coming up in recent times. There probably has, to be fair. I think it's a big thing, and I see a lot of people saying that people buy their season tickets. If they can't go and they don't want to give them away, then that's up to them. I get that side of the argument as well. I give my season tickets away. I very, very rarely miss any games, so if I do, I give them to my sister and my niece to take because I've got a parenting child. But that's not allowed by the club either. I'm not allowed to give the season ticket I bought to my sister and my niece, who is a parenting child. So, and it's my family. So I'm paying £800 or £830 for mine and my son's ticket, but I can't give it to a family member. I do
Crazy.
give them out. It's crazy. It is, mate. I do give them out to friends, or I leave them on the supporters bus. What I tend to do is make sure it's a child that's going, because the tickets are different colours. So if you do get caught getting in a child ticket as an adult, then there's a chance it may get took off you. So There's loads of different reasons why people don't give them away, but I think it's certainly something that should be brought up at the AGM, 100%, because even in the winter games and stuff like that, and financially, people can't get. They may be able to pay their season tickets and don't want to give them up because they know the chances are they'll never get them back because of the waiting list. So, it's a tough one, but I don't know if the club will address it. Maybe it's something fans on the waiting list should get together and make a wee bit more noise about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly something that'd be worth looking into. Certainly as a club, it just seems totally wrong to me to have games getting played. You know, potentially important league games can get played as well. Particularly if you're looking at a Wednesday night where the people that do come over from Ireland, it's just not possible for them to get back and forth on the ferries without staying overnight, and it's a work night for a lot of them as well. And there's countless other reasons. And Gary Brown's touched on one of them is that if the game's on the telly and it's pissing it down, cold outside, winter's night, you can see why some might think, you know what, no, for me, I'll sit at home with my hot chocolate and I'll watch it on the telly instead.
That's another point, but I don't care how cold it is, mate, or if it's pissing rain. I'll be there. Certainly at Paradise, I tend not to miss any at all. But there's loads of different reasons. I mean, people have got family issues, financial issues, travelling to Ireland, work, or they have to leave early, or they're working late. There's so many different factors in it. I just think when you look to the Premiership and other grounds, they tend to be full when you watch them on the TV, especially the English Premiership, Germany and stuff like that. So it's cost again, mate. But they need to get up with the times. They certainly need to get up with the times, and they certainly need to come out and speak to the fans about it. I think it's grown a wee bit more motion in social media, but Celtic don't look at shit like that. So you'll get nothing done being quiet, that's for sure, mate. Well, absolutely nothing will get done being quiet. So if there's 12,000 people on a waiting list, then look for people on social media and start making some fucking noise about it, and something might happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is something that, as I say, needs to be addressed by everyone, really, and we need to have a look at it because even looking, closer to home, there's definitely some good incentives that are being offered by other clubs, not just in terms of season tickets, but other things that are going on. You've got Motherwell, I think, give their kids free season tickets. And I'm saying Celtic will be doing that, but there's certainly opportunities there to tap into. Aberdeen, I believe, this year are now running a free bus service to Pataudry to try and incentivise the fans in the city centre to get out to the stadium, to go to the games. And I just kind of feel like sometimes, you're seeing these clubs, in Scotland making a lot more effort with their fans. And I sometimes feel that we should be doing a bit more in that respect. I don't really feel like there's as many of these sort of incentives happening at Celtic. And maybe it's me being a bit ignorant towards that, but there's nothing that really stands out to me when I think of Celtic in terms of incentivising their supporters. It's almost a case as if they know because the fans are so loyal to the club, they're going to pay the money regardless of what they choose to charge. I think the prices went up again probably this year, despite the fact we're in the cost of living crisis. And the club itself is actually founded on charitable foundations. It does seem a bit wrong that the club have now decided to make it even more expensive for fans to be going to games, particularly when there'll be so many that are close to the bone in their own personal lives. I mean, from your point of view, Del, do you feel the club do enough in terms of incentives? Is there many incentives that you're aware of that they do offer that you're quite impressed by?
None, absolutely none, mate. And they never have. They never have. The free games for the friendly, the training day thing on Monday, I think was just a flash in the pan idea, and no, certainly not. And me and Mark and that spoke about it at length the other week regarding the kiosk prices and stuff. I won't get back in too much because it fucking really annoys me. But no, they definitely don't give you much incentive other than being. I'm a massive Celtic fan. I go with my son. I want to go and watch the team. That's my incentive to go and watch us winning trophies. I don't feel there's anything at all for inside the club that makes me want to go more. I think somebody had mentioned there regarding the League Cup. I think you possibly still do get, if it's an early round, the League and Scottish Cup tickets on your season ticket. The Champions League tickets, I don't know what they're going to cost this year, mate. I'm fucking dreading it, to be honest with you.
bucks so easily, won't they? Because they were about, 100 last time we were in, roughly speaking,
think-
probably.
I think the Europa League group ones the last time, just for myself, were maybe £105. I'm expecting probably between £40 and £50 for the Champions League games. I would imagine for the group stages for the 3 games, I'll probably forking out about the best part of £250 for me and the wee man, which is keeping up with the way living is now, but it's not keeping up with the average Joe who works a normal 9 to 5 job and who can afford it. But prices are always going to go up, they're not going to come down. But if you look at what they do in Germany, season tickets are £200. It's €20 to go to a Bayern Munich game.
Yep.
You can get a beer for €4. So there's loads of different stuff out there that Scotland don't copy, which is night and day for where we are. I don't know if it's in regards to the club itself, the government, or whatever prices. I'm not 100% sure in the politics behind it, but certainly from a fan's point of view, they don't do enough to appease the fans and help out, as you say, founded on a charitable basis to feed the poor, but miles away from it, mate, miles away from it.
Yeah, they've definitely lost touch with the origins of what the football club is all about, in my humble opinion. Anyway, on that part, and you're obviously talking about the European games. I'm pretty sure last time I got the European package a few years ago when it was Lenny was still in charge, and it was a group with Lazio that were in it, and that was still about 80 or 90 quid for a Europa League group stage 3 batch package. It's pretty extortionate considering the best team in that group was Lazio. So it was Cluj and Rennes, I believe, the other teams in that group from memory. So they definitely do manage to get a fair amount of cash out of the supporters. And you've got to bear in mind as well, they also get the merchandise sales from them, as well. And I've spoke to Celtic fans previously, and even a lot of them season ticket holders saying, why don't they do a deal with the merchandise? Why don't they give them a discounted offer on the new strips? Those Adidas numbers are selling like hotcakes at the moment. There's such a good opportunity there to me, looking at that, to potentially cash in and show a little bit of, loyalty back towards your fan base and give them something back there. I mean, in terms of obviously the store and things like that, Dale, I mean, that's surely something we need to be looking at as well.
Simple things like that would make such a difference. I've got 2 sons, so my oldest son's Celtic kit was £96. My youngest was £74, and that's 2 new strips every single year. And they bring a third kit out kind of later on, just before the season starts, and you don't just go in there and buy a football strip either. You go in there at Christmas time, you go in there at birthdays and buy balls and buy scarves and buy hoodies and buy whatever else you may buy. So it's another expense that they could look at, but I think that's why the board, and I think it's across the board as well, but if you look down south, the Man U and Man City kits are now like £100 for the top only. But
crazy, madness.
football fans then we're mugs then, aren't we? Because we keep buying them every year. So you can batter on and greet and moan as much as you want about the board, but as you say, the strips are selling, so the prices won't go down, mate. The prices won't go down.
No, they're definitely not going to go down, and it's something that, as I say, you'd have liked to have thought the board might have looked at for, particularly season ticket holders, I would say, as some sort of discount there as a sort of thank you for renewing your ticket, and here's something back from the club. Yeah. I think that's a very straightforward thing to do if you offered some sort of percentage of your first purchases from the store for each season ticket holder that buys one. I don't think that's something that would have been too much of a hardship for the club to bear, and it's just one of a small number of things that we should be looking at as a club to really improve on. But that's obviously one of these things that's just not going to change, I don't think, in the immediate future. And Philip's coming in with a very good point, Philip DeMarco, as to how much things can actually cost. If you've got your season ticket, your Champions League ticket package, if Celtic were to get to both cup finals, you could be easily running at a cost of over £1,000 on that.
Much more, mate. Much more, because That's not including me driving into games every week
That's what I
or
was about to touch. Yeah.
going on the supporters bus. As Philip said, cup runs. I was at I was at the Hampden games as well. So that was Hibs game, the Rangers game, and the League Cup final as well. So that's more cost. You're a 10-15 quid for the bus. You're 10-15 quid for fuel. You're whatever you get feeding the kids as well. So if you're going for a couple of pints and European
That's
games
up.
as well. Aye, mate. So it's crazy. It's crazy money. It's definitely closer to the £2,000 mark in a season for me taking the wee man, 100%.
Aye, and you know, as we keep touching back on as well, you're in a very difficult financial climate at the moment, and how people, you know, at that close to the breadline manage to find the money to afford that. I just think the club need to be doing a bit more on that. But we'll move on from that and kind of just touch upon the last part of the show. Obviously, we'll preview a little bit about the Aberdeen game coming up this Sunday. Obviously, it's a trickier game, I think, Dale. I think Aberdeen are looking a much stronger team than they were last season. They're looking like they've got the bit between their teeth again. I actually rate Jim Goodwin as a manager. I think he'll turn them around quite significantly, and I expect them to be back competing for the European places in the league again this season. I actually caught bits of them. They were up at my local ground, which is Stirling Albion, and trounced them 5-0 just the other week. So I think we're going to be in for a difficult game with Aberdeen. Are you expecting, something, more of a test and a challenge from them? They obviously, even though they didn't play well against us, in the season last year, they actually did play well against us. A couple of the games, Pataudry, the first time round was probably a big turning point for us last season. And, it was a away win in the league when we went up there, and we won that fairly late on, 2-1. And then the next one's a pivotal one as well, because we were actually 2-0 up at Pataudry the next time we went there. And we ended up getting pegged back to 2 each, and it was looking like the momentum was all with them until Jota gets a moment of magic and makes it 3-2. And even the game at Celtic Park in between them in November, there's a bit of fortune. I vaguely remember that's a rebound. I think the goalkeeper hits it off Callum McGregor for the winner in that game. So bearing in mind, the fact Aberdeen were nowhere near at it at all last season throughout the majority of the season, how difficult are you expecting this game to be with the prospect of them surely having to have improved on their performances last season?
I'm confident getting into the game. I think we had been Flag Day, the tifos and the stadium. I think is going to be absolutely jumping in Sunday. I expect a roof to come off the place when the teams come out onto the park. Obviously, the trophy will be there, the flag will be there. So I'm not too worried about the weekend. I'm quietly confident going into it, mate. I think I agree with your point. I think Aberdeen are going to be a different beast this year. I'm just not too worried in regards to Sunday. Jim Goodwin's teams were always difficult to beat when he was at St Mirren. He's obviously lost Ferguson, who's away to Italy, but he's brought in some good signings, mate. I can't see them finishing bottom six this year. Not this year at all. I don't know about Hibs too much. I think they might struggle again, but I think it'll be a hard game, mate. I really think it'll be a hard game, but I still don't fancy us to concede any goals. I think it'll be a 2 or 3-0 victory, mate. Getting into the weekend, I don't know if that leads you in nicely to the league table thing.
We'll touch upon that.
The Bhoycie Bus.
We'll touch upon that in just a moment. Just before we get to that, obviously you mentioned there that Jim Goodwin's a very good defensive coach, and I'd have to agree with you. He did very well with St Mirren last season. He actually was one of the few teams that managed to keep us scoreless against them down at St Mirren Park in December last year, in a 0-0 draw, and that was with a lot of players out for St Mirren that day as well. It was a game Celtic really should have won, but they couldn't find a way past that St Mirren blockade, if you like. And Charles Smith's making the point that Aberdeen will try and do something similar on Sunday, which I agree with. They probably will try and put 10 men behind the ball, and they are going to try and hit us on the break where they can, and try and keep us tight for as long as they possibly can, as well. And that kind of leads me on to this point. When you're looking at the attack for Celtic, we tend to score a lot of goals, particularly at home. Is this the type of game where, if you're going to come up against a team that's going to camp in, that are going to be no mugs, they're going to be one of the better teams for me in the domestic league this season. Is this the type of game where you possibly look at Chaos and Kyogo up front together? Not that asking your fans will do it. I'm just wondering, is that something you would consider?
I would like to see the formation changing. I think the way we play in the league and the teams we play against, the formation's kind of perfect. With the guys being so wide and the two fullbacks coming in and overlapping, it suits us against the likes of Ross Counties and teams like that do sit in, because it only takes so long for us to break down. The formation change for me is got to be in Europe, depending on the group. But I don't think you'll see the two up top a lot in Scotland. I would like to see it more, possibly. Cup games. I think if you don't try, you don't know. Don't know. That's the thing. If you don't try, you don't know. It tends to be kind of very, very similar at Parkhead to other than maybe Rangers, that the way teams set up, Livingston and teams like that especially. So why not get a bash? Why not go 4-4-2 or 3-5-2? If Carter Vickers and Starfelt and Moritz are there and they're fit, Greg Taylor and Juranovic and Ralston and Bernabe have certainly got the capabilities to play as wing backs. Definitely. They're very, very fit. They can get up and down the park. So, why not, mate? Why not give the 3-5-2 or the 3-4-3 a bash in some of these games that we know we're more than capable of winning. And Andrews allegedly had this philosophy since he's been in Australia. He's played the same way. Even though it's took him a year or two when he's went to the new clubs to get into his rhythm, he's kind of stuck to what he's done all this time, and it frustrates me sometimes, but you can't really say too much about him. He's still kind of in the godlike sense, but I would love to see the formation changing every now and then, mate, just to mix it up a wee bit.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think we should be looking at playing two up front more regularly, possibly maybe not Sunday, but certainly home games going forward. It should be something we should be looking to do. I don't understand the reluctance to try two up front. It seems like it's almost like a dated sort of way of playing football, not just from a perspective, but across the globe. It's very rare you actually see two out-and-out strikers playing up front together, whereas when I was growing up, that was constantly what you'd see. If somebody went one up front, you'd be like, what the hell are they actually doing, playing only one up top? And certainly it would have been unthinkable for Celtic to be doing that domestically when I was growing up. It just wouldn't be tolerated. It just would have been questioned all over the place if that was to happen. I think Postecoglou should, as I say, look at it. I'm not convinced he will. I think he's fairly comfortable with the formation he has. It'd be nice if he is willing to change it, and I think that is something that the jury has to be out on Ange on that part. As much as he's done a brilliant job over the last 12 months, I think he's always got to be looking to adapt and play the fixture at times, which I think, sometimes the fixture calls for that extra body up front, and it'll be interesting to see if he adapt to that way of playing going forward.
Obviously, the team sheets go into the opposition team an hour before kickoff, so a Giamakis and a Kyogo starting up top will be it would probably throw teams off what they've prepared for all week as well. So it's not something you could do week in, week out. I think most teams are coming to Parkhead and we're going away, and they're expecting the Ange Postecoglou team to start exactly the way we did last year, because that's the way he plays football. So it'd be good to see it, mate. Aberdeen winning over Hutton if Kyogo and Chaos started up front together at the weekend, with Jota and Maida playing out wide a four. They wouldn't know what hurt them, but as you say, the football moves with the times, and the managers and teams tend to go with that because they're playing like for like, aren't they? The Champions League's the big one for me, mate. I think we toiled last year with the squad in some games and conceded quite a few goals and that, but I think he would need to look at maybe the three centre halves and the two full backs in Champions League games. then Celtic fans would probably moan and say what they're fucking playing 5 at the back for in a European game. But if you're going to be successful, you need to adapt. And that's the one thing we haven't seen for Ange Postecoglou really is adapting his formation. So will this season maybe bring it out with more quality in the squad? I hope so, mate, but my heart's telling me probably not. Probably not, man.
No, I don't think we will. Very often, I completely agree with the sense that football's a changed game from when I was growing up. In that sense, making myself sound like I was 60 years old now. But it definitely does seem to have gone the way of only having the one man at top. I would agree with you. Coming the Champions League games again, you do have to adapt to play the fixture. But that's us at an hour, so we're going to wrap this up with one final part of the show. There's going to be this season a Bhoycie Bus Predictor League, I believe my brother is planning. I think Phil McGinley is going to be helping with the running of this. I'm not entirely sure if we're doing all the league games in the Scottish top flight. I think we might be, but I don't think we'll go through all of them tonight, so partly because I can't even who's playing who, to be honest with you. But if we're looking just at the Celtic Aberdeen game on Sunday, Dale, what are you going for? What is your score prediction going to be?
I'm going to say 4-0.
4-0?
Aye, mate. I'm going to say 4-0. I think, as I said before, it'll be flag day. Place absolutely jumping. Jota, the last couple of games, has been an absolute fire. He looks ready to go. Kyogo's looking good. Maeda's looking really good as well. The attacking options are looking good. The back line's looking strong. McGregor, Hatate was phenomenal at the weekend. Nobody in the league worries me, mate. And I think we got off to a flyer. I agree with Ryan. 4-0 to the hoops, mate.
Well, no, it's a big prediction. Let's hope that's right, because that would send us along to the Bullfrog in very jolly spirits. Indeed. For me, I'm kind of looking at it. I think it's going to be a bit more of a tighter game. I'm not convinced it'll be a complete thumping like it sometimes can be. I always think opening day of the season and last day of the season when it's trophy day and flag day, Celtic can quite often give teams a doing. I'm not convinced that's what will happen. I think Aberdeen will be a bit shrewder to the test, although without having Liam Scales, who I believe has been one of their exceptional players so far in the pre-season, one of the main reasons they've had so much success defensively, granted against lower league opposition, with him obviously ruled out because he's only on loan from us, then that could harm their chances a wee bit more. So I'm probably looking at it and thinking Celtic will get the job done. I think it will be fairly comfortable. I'm not convinced it'll be a goal fest, but I'm going to say 2-0. I'm going to say it's Hatate that's going to score. I actually think Maeda will pop up with one as well. I think that's just us getting confirmed as well that there is going to be a predictor league. I haven't just made that up. We've got that confirmed by the main bus driver himself. But I'm saying 2-0 to Celtic. And I'm saying it's going to be Rio Hatate, and I think it's going to be Maeda that get the goal still. But that's been us, really. It's been an hour and 3 minutes. It's flown in. It's been a really good show tonight. Thank you for all of your comments. Please do remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you want to donate to the channel, completely optional, then you do have that option there available to you. Hopefully we'll see a lot of you down the Bullfrog as well when we come to Motherwell after the Celtic Aberdeen game this Sunday. Really looking forward to being a part of all of that. I know Dale's obviously going to have a big part to play, as is a few others as well. Phil McGinley will be there. The main bus driver, Bhoycie Bus man, will also be in attendance. It should be a cracker. Dale, thanks very much for joining me tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to mention at all, mate?
No, not at all, mate. Just that I might change my mind before Friday night, but I'll have a wee think through the week.
He's thinking he can change now.
You never know. No, mate, that was it, mate. Thanks very much tonight. It's good to get on a wee Monday show and hopefully see a couple of the passengers on Sunday. Really looking forward to the first live show, mate. So enjoy the rest of your week, trips. Tune in tomorrow night, especially for the Richard Gordon episode. That'll be a cracker, and I'm really looking forward. That's not even his name, is it? Is it?
Richard. Well, yes, we do have a big week planned coming up as well on the bus. We will have the Richard Gordon interview coming out tomorrow.
Right.
going to be absolutely massive. Please do tune into that one. I know Russell and Mark Kearney have put a lot of effort into putting that, make that happen, and I know it'll be must-watch TV. I'm actually back on again. I'm double shifting this week. I'm on with Phil McGinley and a few others on Wednesday for the debut of the Celtic years, following a similar route to the Bus Liga that Phil's been running over the summer. I believe we're going back to 07-08, and judging by Phil's notes, that is going to be an absolute cracker of a show, ladies and gentlemen. And then obviously there will be the Thursday night forum with David Logue and Conor McCann joining my brother on Thursday night, the usual Thursday night slot for that, where they'll really be starting to preview the big game on Sunday. And then, of course, Sunday does see Regan. I think he's doing the Sunday morning blether. Not double check that one. I'm sure there'll be some sort of show put on anyway, before we then have the big one, the Celtic versus Aberdeen game, followed by the Bhoycie Bus going live from the Bullfrog. But tonight, I've been Jono Boyce. That's been Del. Have a good evening. Cheers. Thank you.
Comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.